Hey gamers, welcome back to another Snail Trail video. It's now been over a week since the racetracks were opened, and I've got an interesting question for you. How much slime have you made so far? Not much? Well, you're not alone. Literally everyone is still struggling to find the secret sauce to earn in that sweet slime. And even the ones who seem to have blasted ahead in terms of leveling up their snails don't seem to have found any secret to winning every race. So, is there a winning strategy? If there is, what is it? Let's find out. Before we get into it, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and let's try to get this video to 100 likes. This channel is your one-stop shop for your crypto gaming needs. I appreciate you all for watching. Now let's dive in. How do you win in Snail Trail? The answer? Pray to the randomness gods. Okay, jokes aside now, in all seriousness, randomness plays a very huge part in this game. But that's not to say your decisions don't matter at all. It's just that this early in the game, they don't matter a lot. Let me try to give an overview of my own experience as well as some data I've been able to gather from the Snail Trail community. If you've played a reasonable number of games, whether in daily missions or competitive, you would have realized already that it's very hard to tell why you're losing or why you're winning. And while the game is only a couple of weeks old, such experiences can leave players pretty frustrated, with a lot of them feeling like they've been lied to by the white paper because their expectations aren't being met. While they're not entirely right, they're not entirely wrong either. Some of the information on the white paper could have been better explained, and some statements are intentionally vague in order to give room for discovery. When you play a game, you want to feel like you're making progress, learning, and applying what you learn to get better results. But a large number of players just don't feel that way at the moment because nothing you expect to work works. Instead, they feel like they're simply gambling whenever they enter a competitive race. And this sentiment has drastically decreased the number of players participating in the competitive races. Currently, every snail is allowed to partake in daily races every 4 hours. This allows you to race about 5 times a day. From these daily missions, you would be able to get about 30 slime every day. So, if you're not a whale and you really want to partake in the competitive races, you get a chance at one of those competitive races every 2 days from the slime you've saved up. So think about this. If it took you 2 days to earn enough tickets to enter a competitive race and you lost, you would feel like shit. But that's fine, right? Because not everyone can win. There can only be 3 winners and 7 losers. But that's not what has most players upset. Let me tell you why most players are upset with their results. If you had read the white paper, especially this page which specifies the factors that affect your snail's speed, you would feel pretty confident going into races where you feel like your snails tick all the boxes. I'm honestly one of those who thought that these factors would carry a lot of weight in determining the success of your snail. But according to the developers, we've all misunderstood what has been represented here, and they've offered further explanation to the issue of snail speed. Misunderstood or poorly communicated? Well, I'd say when you leave things vague, they become easy to misinterpret. So thankfully, we now have this clarification. Before getting into their explanation, I will say that a huge reason for this misunderstanding and misconception is that the speed formula remains a secret and is only known by the developers. Now, I'm personally not okay with this decision, and here's my take on it. Because this is blockchain gaming, there's no way to ensure there's no insider trading going on. The only ones with access to the speed formula are the developers. Now, this isn't an accusation or even a suggestion, but it should be stated that the only thing that stops the devs from taking advantage of this information is their own personal ethics. Practically speaking, they could create as many wallets as they wish and partake in the games. But assuming they don't abuse their powers, what if the formula gets leaked anyway? Not to say those who stole it would win every race, but then they'd have a clear advantage over everyone else. However, the developers created this system, so it's expected that they are dedicated to keeping it thriving for years to come, and they wouldn't try to game the system or even let it get stolen. That said, I do think the speed formula should be made public, and if the formula is really well thought out, which I honestly think it is, there should still be too many factors working together to allow any snail to always have the upper hand. But at least we would have a more open system and a level playing field. Speaking with the team on several occasions, I understand that part of the design of the game is to leave a lot to discover for the players, and that's absolutely fair. But there's already a lot of complexity to this game, as well as a healthy amount of randomness, that I feel like more transparency with the data may in fact encourage more experimentation and more participation from the players. Think about this. According to the documentation, every season we get a new gene coefficients array, and each snail has these numbers randomized, and that remains encoded for the entire season. That's great. We don't ever need to know what that is until the season is over. Then we can confirm by looking back at our results and seeing how these coefficients may have helped. That's one unknown that remains an unknown, and even if you somehow figure it out for your snail, you've got to do it all over again in the next season. Next, we have your trail preference, which I'm gonna get into in more detail very soon, but believe it when I say that knowing your preference is not gonna get you guaranteed wins. It does not even guarantee you top 3, because all 10 snails could be racing on their preferred trail. Think about that. And finally, you have the RNG or random number generator that is used in the speed formula to calculate the speed of every snail before the race. This remains an unknown and will always be an unknown even if you have your hands on the speed formula. Add these to all the other factors that contribute to your snail's speed, and you'd see how having the formula would not lead to a guaranteed win, but could help a lot in figuring out a winning game plan. So honestly, thinking about all of this, I would say that the team may be keeping this formula secret, not necessarily to prevent cheating, but rather to protect their intellectual property. Because it's so easy to fork a smart contract, anyone could then copy their code and create a copycat racing simulator. This could be their main fear. We've derailed a little bit talking about the speed formula, but I just wanted to get my thoughts on that out of the way. Bottom line is, I honestly wish the team would revise what parts of the project they want to keep private, as a lot of players would feel cheated with the current level of transparency. Going back to the speed page, after a lot of complaints from players on Discord, the team released a Twitter thread to explain a little more how these factors affect the speed of your snail. In case you haven't seen this yet, a link to the tweet is in the description. I won't read everything here, but let's point at a few things. Firstly, and I would say most importantly, is the fact that you need to stop expecting results that make sense this early in the game. This is because we need thousands of races on a single distance to begin to understand the true average speed and performance of your snail on that trail. Now, as much as we may not like this, simply because it means you've got to spend crazy amounts of slime, we can agree that it is in line with most P2E games out there. Even in idle games like Hoppers or Chicken, you have to use your earned tokens to add value to your NFT in order to improve your earnings as well as the value of your NFT. And if thousands of races are needed, then no single snail is even close to finding its true potential yet. And there is no shortcut to getting there. you will eventually have to spend that slime to learn more about your snail. Let's look at a few examples. Currently, the snail with the highest number of total races is brown sugar. And if you look at the distribution of its races, it's raced over 60 times on each distance and is still unsure what its preferred trail is. There is not a clear indication that any two distances are preferred by its owner. Another example is a community member on Discord, Mayazo, who shared his snail data with me. He has a lot fewer races than brown sugar, but seems to have narrowed his preferred trails to 10 or 15. But even on his preferred trails, with 2 matching adaptations, he has had a lot of terrible placements. And this is the second important thing they've reiterated in their explanation. Your adaptations only boost your snail as much as the genes they have been matched with. So if you have an Atlantis, for example, who has all 3 adaptation slots unlocked, but the genes they've been matched to are all Gs, you wouldn't get that much of a boost in your average speed because the Gs have the lowest effect. So as nice as it is to get all your adaptations unlocked, we honestly have to stop attaching too much importance to it. And to put this to the test, I intentionally put all of my snails in races where they had no matching adaptations, and the results were, well, they did well several times. I know a few days of races is not a large sample size, as we've already seen, but if the adaptations were an all-important factor, these snails would definitely be ending up bottom 5 more often than not. But clearly, adaptations are a very small piece of the pie that is the speed formula. On top of that, I only tested this on the daily missions, and I'm almost certain that the formula for competitive is different from the daily mission speed formula. After I had several disappointing races due to my high expectations of what's on this table, I thought up my own theory about these factors. I asked the developers this question, and they could neither confirm nor deny my theory. What I think about this table is that instead of levels of importance as it implies, it's actually parts of a percentage, with this distribution as shown on the screen. But whether my theory is right or wrong, it still doesn't account for the RNG aspect, which ensures that even if your snail is a 20 purity Atlantis with all matching adaptations, you will not win every race. In fact, you're guaranteed to come in last place more than a few times. So honestly, here's my advice. If you're playing this game to get a return on your initial investment, then maybe taking the chance by playing competitive is not the best choice. You're gonna win some, but you're guaranteed to lose way more than you win. Instead, you should focus on participating in the daily missions, which is honestly just farming for slime tokens. You don't have to think too much about these races because performing well in daily missions does not tell you much about any of the competitive distances. The devs have stated that the treasury run distance is not similar in any way to the competitive distances. So just farm for slime with the races, save up the slime, cash it out, or use it for your breeding if you choose. And if you're going to participate in competitive races, you should accept the reality that it will take a few months before you feel like you know what works for your snail, and your results will vary a lot. And that's my personal winning strategy. Do your daily missions and save up your slime. Simple as that. Before I go, let me reiterate that I love this game and I definitely want to see it succeed. And bearing in mind that the game literally just launched and is currently in its beta season, a lot of changes are bound to come and improvements are expected to be made. So, as frustrating as the current competitive situation may be, let's allow this game to breathe. The team have shown that they can deliver and have continued to improve on the game since launch. I know that impatience and get-rich-quick expectations are now commonplace in crypto, but good things take time. And personally, I intend to keep playing and keep supporting the community in my own ways as the game continues to develop. It's been a pleasure diving deeper into Snail Trail with you guys. As always, stay safe, take care, and earn on gamers. You deserve it.